All right.
We
So, today we are reacting to a video called
Benji.
Hashirama is Way Stronger Than You Think by Sage of Thick Calves. I was going to say Calves for a
that's
second there.
that, that's a great name. That's also hello everybody. This was requested by Rock and Alice, our members. So
If this gets uploaded for the members and they're wondering why their videos haven't been done yet, I'll try and get to some of them tonight. Just timing has been really scuffed across the board. So, I know a cursory knowledge of Naruto. Mangler knows more than me. So,
read the manga twice, watched the anime once. Should be
yes.
good.
So then let's just get into it.
Is one of the strongest characters in the history of Naruto. Stated to have been peerless in his time, this absolute mutant had power so great that he could subdue all of the Bijou, beat the brakes off of Madara, and even just his cells function as their own power system, to the point of massively amplifying those who have it grafted onto their bodies. While most people in the Naruto community do agree that Hashirama's a monster,
I'm just gonna say this right now. If this was all edited by hand, this is some fantastic editing.
worthy of his God of Shinobi moniker, I actually think he tends to be a bit underrated. So in this video, I'll be debunking some common misconceptions and giving you a fresh take covered by nobody on YouTube thus far, with new pieces of evidence you are certainly not aware of, in order to provide you with a definitive answer as to just how powerful the first Hokage truly was. In other words, today we'll be exploring and breaking down why
All right,
Hashirama is way stronger than you think.
all right then. I gotta ask the question. So he thinks Hashirama's underrated. He claims we'll be debunking common misconceptions. We'll be giving a fresh take covered by nobody on YouTube with new pieces of evidence you've never seen before. All right, so I'm prepared to be absolutely wowed. I'm prepared to get my socks blown off.
I was about to say this man's making some very bold claims because this is a popular series. Like, if I came out and did a Fist of the North Star video saying this, you would believe that because no one makes Fist of the North Star videos.
Yeah, if we did that on like if I did
To
a
begin
the
this
thing on
video,
like Toriko with Kyle, yeah, but like on Naruto,
Let's see it.
Naruto's like a carcass that has been picked clean for like decades. It's been decomposing for a while. What do you
So,
think you're gonna find in there?
hey, I'm open. I'm open to the possibility,
I think it's first worth
and
covering
I'm continuing at 58.
the misconceptions that people have had for a
Confidence is
while to
healthy.
suggest a lower tier of power for Hashirama, which isn't really something other creators have done. Now, no hate towards those who have made Hashirama scaling videos before, but it tends to be the same redundant, overly saturated garbage that just gets recycled and regurgitated into your brains like a rhetorical mama bird feeding her babies. That's not what you're going to be receiving today. You're on Sage's channel. No regurgitation, just a nuanced, fresh perspective based on information you definitely haven't heard before on the power of the God of Shinobi. But with that out of the way, let's start with the supposed relativity to Madara. This is just blatantly not the case. First of all, Hashirama did just beat Madara 3 separate times in canon, with the only L he took being because Madara already had a win con in place prior to their battle, with Hashirama having Rinnegan rods planted in his back from their previous fight, which allowed Madara to restrain him with his chakra, preventing Hashirama from moving. In the previous 3 rounds, the first one ended with Hashirama beating Madara so badly that Madara is left lying on the ground after a day, while Hashirama is perfectly fine. The second is the final valley, where Madara seeks out the Nine Tails to fight Hashirama with him, since he couldn't do
Okay, I'm gonna stop this at 211. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Hashirama have like a super busted healing factor by Naruto standards? Isn't that like the main deal with the cells?
Yeah, they
I'm
make it a point that like when he fights, he could heal without weaving signs. And
so
when Tsunade fights Madara, and he compares her to her grandfather when she activates her 100 healings technique, she's able to heal like he did without signs. So she's basically functionally immortal unless he like cuts off her head. Like even her internal organs and areas will be healed.
yeah, so that's the point I was gonna get at. Arguing a character with a massively good healing factor is unharmed after a fight is not the argument you think it is.
So I'm going to see if he mentions some of these. I mean, to be fair, he has brought up good points, which is that on almost all the fights, Madara has consistently lost. I understand, like, that Madara does have a healing factor, as Zim points out, but, like, a better example would be that just Hashirama has consistently just like hit him. Like whenever Hashirama shows up to fight somebody, he fights them with the summons and things he makes from his own power. When Madara shows up to fight Hashirama, he shows up with the Nine Tails and then puts his perfect Susanoo on top of it. So it's
That
almost
just sounds like him using his resources at hand. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You got a problem with
those
that?
aren't his resources though.
They are all his resources.
And
The
it wasn't
Ninetales,
even enough. It
the
wasn't even
Ninetales belong to him. By this logic, Naruto's own abilities aren't his own resources because it's the fucking Ninetales.
I mean, to be fair, it doesn't belong to him. Let's give it against well.
All right, so let us continue the section. I will pause it after he's done with each timestamp area. I just wanted to mention that because that kind of irked me.
Himself, with Hashirama perfectly handling Madara, even with Kurama's assistance, while in base. Hashirama's official birthday column tells us directly that while in base, Hashirama fought evenly with Madara, even while he
Hashirama fights back against Madara with the full force of his wood-style jutsu. Even with Madara controlling the Ninetales, the two are evenly matched, unleashing moves so intense they alter the surrounding area. Okay.
he's using the full Nine Tails to help. Keep in mind, Hashirama is definitively not trying to kill Madara, with him stating as much, and this is important because the Boruto novels tell us that fighting someone without using killing intent makes a shinobi significantly less effective than they'd normally be, doing less damage than they normally would, and even receiving more recoil from their own attacks. And by the way, just to clarify, we do know this statement is in reference to base Hashirama only, since the next statement in the column tells us that after this, realizing you can't get
Hang on. Something else that helps in my case is that Hashirama says he didn't gain his result to kill Madara until the end, while Madara was going all out versus base Hashirama.
This is true to an extent because throughout their fights, both in the final valley or when they make the final valley the first time, when Madara leaves the Leaf Village officially, and when he fights him during the Warring States period, both times at the end of the fight and at the beginning of the fight, Hashirama keeps telling him to stop fighting and to stop fighting him, and Madara just keeps going at it.
Yeah,
So he's not wrong about that.
Yes, I do agree that he's provided enough evidence to suggest that Hashirama isn't going with killing intent till the very end. But two things on that front. Doesn't Madara still fight Hashirama for a period after he resolves himself to kill Madara? And the original scan he
No.
used, no. So as soon as he says that the fight's just over, or do we not see how the fight goes?
We literally see him just stab him from behind and he dies.
I would have to see that context later, but I'll take your
Did,
word
did,
for it.
did you see the panel? Did you not show it already? You should
Hang on.
have.
Well, hang on. I'll wait till we're told on the section in the comment.
He then powers up into Sage Mode to achieve greater power. What this establishes is that Hashirama is a 9 Tails level gap above Madara at bare minimum, since, again, holding back. This is actually supported by the fact that he uses the Golem in base, and this same Golem is stated to be equal to Kurama, with the same Golem being able to box with and even defeat Madara Susanoo during the War Arc, which we'll get into in a sec. Once he does go into Sage Mode, though, Hashirama just beats the brakes off of the majestic attire Susanoo, ragdolling Kurama like an infant and putting him to sleep like the good little baby fox he is. This battle ends with Hashirama finally getting his resolve and putting a sword through Madara's back, defeating him. In their third battle, as I said before, Hashirama boxes with a perfect Susanoo using his wood golem and ultimately defeats Madara, pinning him down with the deity gates, sealing his movements. This is actually quite impressive considering the fact that they should both have a similar nerf by virtue of them both being Edos, but Madara is actually amped beyond what he would have otherwise been due to having access to his Rinnegan, which he only unlocked later in life, as well as Hashirama's mutant cells, which were grafted onto his chest and granted him access to wood release. So I think this definitively showcases that Hashirama was 100% above Madara by a significant degree, which again is backed up by the fact that he's stated to have been peerless in his time. I'm honestly not sure why this Madara to Hashirama relativity narrative still lives on in the big 2025, but here we are. Another false ceiling placed on Hashirama in this series.
Okay, so we got to the Madara section. Okay, so number one, the scan he uses first does say that Hashirama is using the full extent of his wood jutsu to fight Madara.
Yes, that's in reference to the 100 hands and the wood golem. The problem is the wood golem is the one that subdues the Nine Tails with the perfect Susanoo. That's like the strongest technique that Madara puts out. Then he puts out like the 100 hands, and that thing just
But that's what
deletes
Sage.
Madara.
But that's what Sage mode, right?
I think,
Because
yeah. I mean, technically, he could summon it without Sage Mode. He doesn't need Sage Mode to summon it.
but he uses Sage mode to deal with Kurama and stuff. But I think this isn't an issue with the. I think this is an issue with understanding what the fuck relative actually means. Relative does not have to mean equal. It just means that he's closer to that character than not. I
It's
don't.
a very vague term.
Relative is mainly used when you have a character who should be around this area, but you can't really call him on par. I don't think anyone's ever claimed they're dead equals.
Relatives just means that same tier, not same amount of power within that tier.
Madara is absolutely relative to Hashirama, consistently both narratively and in depictions. Even if Hashirama's stronger than him, which I don't think anyone really disputes directly, since, again, Madara did need the Nine Tails and the Renegade and stuff to fight him, they would still be relative. Madara is closer to Hashirama than the other characters are to him, until obviously Naruto and Sasuke, and technically Sakura and Kakashi with both Look, until the war arc.
Now he's gonna go over Jubito.
Oh, this is gonna be fun. All right, continue.
This is gonna be interesting.
Now, buckle in because I'm about to open your third eye's fourth eye and enlighten you as to why this common misconception is just that, a misconception. Where people get the idea from that Hashirama is below Jubito is the fight between Jubito and the four Hokage. When Hashirama arrives, he does just say, "This guy is even stronger than me." Pretty straightforward, right?
Introducing Subway's new Sub Club. Now members get every.
Hang on, Subway commercial.
I got interrupted by an NFL commercial.
All right. Well, I'm going to continue at 450.
There are a few issues with this. First, this is not the main Hashirama body. This is a wood clone. This is important because wood clones are shown to be weaker than the original. We see this at the end of chapter 636 when Madara is casually taking down multiple wood clones, saying that they offer no resistance, despite the fact that the main Hashirama body is able to defeat this Madara in a 1v1 fight right after this. Now, some will say that this doesn't matter because Hashirama's clone could be referring to the main body when he says this, but that doesn't make any sense for one big reason. These clones refer to themselves in the first person consistently in ways that can only really refer to the individual clones, not the main body. For example, one of the clones who's on a completely different side of the battlefield than the main body tells the shinobi around him not to fear because I am with you. The main Hashirama body is not with those shinobi. He's fighting Madara. So the idea that this is in reference to the main body is nonsensical.
Correct me if I'm wrong, also at 550. No. I'll talk about it afterwards.
Some have also argued that these clones have a shared consciousness due to them being able to telepathically communicate, but this just isn't the case. They can telepathically communicate, but that does not mean that they have a shared consciousness, and we actually get evidence to suggest otherwise. When Yamato is with Team 7 in pursuit of Sasuke, he directly tells them that he's in communication with his wood clone. Why would he need to communicate with the clones if they have a shared consciousness? That doesn't make any sense. What does make sense is that they have a telepathic link, and much like Charles Xavier doesn't have a shared consciousness with Nightcrawler just because he can telepathically communicate with him, the telepathic link here also does not suggest a shared consciousness. So, since there's no other evidence to suggest that they have a shared consciousness, all we can get from this is that they have telepathy, which means that there's no grounds for saying that this clone was actually referring to the main body, at least from this. Something else that people will point out here is that Tobirama agrees with the clone, even saying, even if you reabsorb your other clones, you'd be no match. That seems pretty clear-cut as well, right? Wrong. That, my friends, is a blatant mistranslation. I ran this past my translators, Ood and Hobbs, both of whom speak and read Japanese, as well as through 6 different AI translation programs, and every single time, what it came out to was something along the lines of, even if you send a diminished clone, you won't be a match, brother. So, all we really get from this, from the source material itself, is that a diminished wood clone won't be enough to face down Jubito. Duh. What this actually
not from the source material itself, because that's not promoted from you. And also, I don't trust the idea that translation is indeed as what do they say? What do they love to say so much? Accurate, as they say.
So I wish you would have shown the machine translations, because the machine translations are a lot more honest than. I'm not, letting it be clear here. I am not saying that his translators are wrong or that they're biased or anything. but I feel like unless that was the machine translation he was showing, which I
I
never really
believe
know
I
what he was
believe that
using.
was, but the problem is the Discord screenshots that he showed for this don't provide any context, and they provide examples of people translating individual kanji,
Yes.
not so you already failed on like the Japanese language thing. So here's how you translate something in kanji. You translate the whole fucking paragraph, not like individual words. Yes, you can look for the individual like meanings, but it's up to the translator to determine that. That's why even different machines will come up with different words even when they translate it more or less the same. It'll still come out with different words. That's why different localizers will come out with translations than yours. Um, but I was gonna say that like I would just go with what's presented as the official there anyway. And as far as the him saying this man is stronger than me, he directly says he's stronger than him. So if he's arguing that's in reference to a diminished clone, first of all, a diminished clone for that translation, that doesn't make any sense at all. Why would he have a diminished clone when he's an Edo Tensei? Edo Tenseis have infinite chakra. That there's nothing to diminish. They can also put on Sage mode to make them stronger. Additionally, that's a wood clone, not a shadow clone. Unlike shadow clones, wood clones are made from a composition of both water and earth jutsu. They're made from natural formated matter in the world that is then mixed in with chakra. That's an actual solid physical body. Even if you think it's weaker than him, it should be almost identical to his physiology, unlike a clone, which is just a mixture of chakra using like a body as an illusion, or at least
That's
a
what I was gonna
physical
reference.
illusion.
That's what I was gonna reference earlier. I was under the impression the wood clones were a lot closer to the real person
They
than the other
are,
clones.
because they're made of earth and water, which are like the only styles that like can be naturally like used without that much chakra, because you're just using the elements of the ground or like the land.
Oh, and actually going back to this for a minute, because I'm still on that whole relative shit. You notice how Madara says a wood clone is nothing to him? That's because he's a lot
Yep.
more relative to the Hashirama than not. But whatever.
No,
No, I'm
no,
not
no.
letting that shit go.
Don't
I'm not letting that shit
don't
go.
don't
That was
don't
that's
don't
such a
don't say
stupid.
that, because that would contradict his point. But I just find that's strange for him to say that, because I know what his position is going to insinuate, and he also, I love how he acted like no one had seen this coming. It's like no one's arguing this. It's like, well, not for the reason that you think.
To, to,
Probably because anyone just read what the statement says. The whole point of Hashirama on the panel running up to that guy and saying, to be frank, this guy is stronger than me, is to indicate that Jubito is more powerful than Hashirama. You can't come to the conclusion it's just referring to the clone. It is narratively intended to mean Hashirama. Also, if there's a
even if you
greater
want to
threat,
argue it's just the clone, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure he'll talk about it right now. Does Hashirama not really fight the full version of Jubito either without getting stomped? Like the real Hashirama? I feel like they fight, don't they, at some point?
no, they don't ever fight, really. It's actually just Naruto and Sasuke. Some of the Kages try to help. Minato tries to do something, gets bodied. So does Hiruzen.
What is
So does
Hashirama doing then?
Hashirama's allegedly fighting Madara.
For
That's
the
when he gets off
whole
screen.
fucking time? Fuck out of here on that non-relative bullshit. Fuck out of here.
Yeah, so the issue also here is that Tobirama has already confirmed that the Edo Tensei basically releases them almost to their full strength. So even if you think they're nerfed, they're not massively nerfed. And Tobirama, who isn't using a clone, also gets speed blitzed as well.
Isn't
And so does
Tobirama,
Hiruzen, and so does Minato.
correct me if I'm wrong,
Minato is
but
not able to react at
yeah,
all.
isn't Tobirama and Minato faster than Hashirama? Isn't that like what's implied that they're the
They
faster?
are considered like the fastest shinobi of their time because of the flying Raijin and their body flicker. No one can really like match them. The only times that like Madara's shown the ability to match Tobirama at that point is just when he's either had Sage Mode, a Limbo clone, or a Rinnegan, or some unfair advantage that allows him extra sensory capabilities. Also, sensory capabilities. Hashirama is not only a Senju, he's a sensory ninja. His clone. It wouldn't just be his clones. It would be his fucking Hashirama himself that can sense how strong Jubito is. And the Jubito that you're referring to there is unstable Jubito, not Obito when he has control of the Ten Tails, when he starts manifesting the truth-seeking orbs and the cane. That's like Obito with no control over his chakra, and the first attack he does is that he speed blitzes them.
Yes.
I'm just saying that's kind of a weird position.
All right.
Also, like, I just find that hilarious that he's like, oh, we need to go get another translation for this. It's like, well, why would you even have the translation, though? Because you're using the official translations for all these other statements. You used the official translation to confirm it was stronger than him. Did you just realize that this statement contradicted your position, and then you went into the Raw to go argue for, like, another thing? Isn't that a bit disingenuous?
To be as fair as or not to be as fair as possible, but to be as clear as possible. There are times where there are mistranslations that you can legitimately just prove are mistranslations. But other times, power scalers will call something a mistranslation if it's not exactly 1-to-1 with the raw. But that's
my
not
position.
how Japanese works.
This is where I would just ask the position that we need to define what a mistranslation is. Because that gets into a problem where I would just tell you the localizer has the official right to add new material and information into the translation because that's literally their job.
Yes.
They are supposed to localize it. So you can't argue their work by that metric is a mistranslation. Even if that wasn't the case, you'd still be cherry picking regardless. You didn't do it for the other ones. You did it for this one.
Let us continue.
Diminished clone, you won't be a match, brother. So all we really get from this, from the source material itself, is that a diminished wood clone won't be enough to face down Jubito.
Start the year strong at Planet Fitness. Just $1 down, $15 a month.
I don't even want this is some stupid mobile game.
Oh, I got a second ad. Fuck, why do I just pay for YouTube Premium at this point?
Hang on. I'm gonna leave and rejoin this point.
They're good. Alright, I'll wait for you.
I'm gonna love checking the audio after this to find out that it did absolutely nothing.
If it makes you feel better, as far as I can tell, you have not cut out anywhere near as bad as you normally do.
Oh, wonderful. You better be right.
Alright, let's continue. Oh, fuck, I had it muted. Fuck, I gotta go back a couple seconds.
Diminished wood clone won't be enough to face down Jubito. Duh. What this actually helps is it makes the line when Hashirama realizes what's going on and goes to help, saying, at this point I need to, ... make a lot more sense. If a wood clone would make no difference, much less a diminished wood clone, and the real body is massively above said clone, going to help actually makes a ton of sense if he can be useful, which the clone cannot. If Tobirama is saying that even the main body won't make a difference, this doesn't make any sense. Something else that supports this is the fact that Edo Madara implies that he needs to get Hashirama's Sage Mode from him in order to go face off with Jubito and steal the Jubi from him. Now, you could just say that he doesn't really know how his own strength compares to Jubito's, but the fact that he's willing to admit inferiority to Hashirama just shows that he's A, probably got a good grasp for how his power compares to others, and B, if he were just weaker than Jubito even with the Sage Mode, to the point of being unable to defeat him, he wouldn't have any hesitation about expressing that. The fact that he thought acquiring Hashirama's Sage Mode would allow for him to be able to take on the likes of Jubito and win, with Hashirama being above said Edo Madara, leads me to believe that this at least is a conversation to be had, which fits far more neatly with my interpretation of these events, as I've laid them out, than it would with the common misconceptions that I addressed prior.
I stopped at 8:41.
It also fits better with the fact that Orochimaru...
Yes, go ahead.
Now, as far as Madara saying that he's going to take the chakra, I shall stop Obito and switch places with him by using your sage energy, your sage power. That's in reference to having the sage power to control the Ten Tails as well. That's not just the power of sage mode. But to be clear, that's Madara assuming he can beat him. If you're arguing under the assumption that Madara knows what he's talking about, you've also argued like base Madara and like full power Madara are way below base Hashirama. So how are you getting to the position that he's way below base Hashirama and that by absorbing his Sage Mode chakra, he's somehow going to make up like the massive difference
The
in strength?
irony of all of this is that if he would have just argued just that Hashirama and Madara are not equal, there wouldn't be this many fucking problems.
No, like it doesn't make any sense because you're now arguing the Sage Mode would make up the difference. But even with that Obito that you're talking about, that's the weakest version of Obito with a casual attack, and that's an unstable Biju version of him. That's
Also,
not the full power.
also keep in mind that it would that like Hashirama when serious was also eclipsing a Nine Tails increase on top of Madara.
The
So
perfect Susanoo.
yeah,
And I would point out that by your own admission, you admit that Hashirama with the Sage Mode needs to go over there and fight Obito. So if your position is that that's a justification that he should scale to Jubito, that just means that he wants to get involved to stop them from killing anybody, because I don't know if you've noticed this, but he's the Hokage of the village. It's his responsibility to keep as many people alive in this era as possible, because that's just the person he is.
actually,
That's not an indication that he's powerful enough to fight him. That's an indication that he's willing to put his life on the line.
yes, and also the wood clones don't appear to be in Sage mode either, so you could just argue this is a case of where he feels like Sage mode would do better than base wood clone, which they
Yeah,
should.
obviously. And secondly, we haven't addressed the more important part. Why does Madara's statement of saying that he'll take it from Obito matter in regards to if he can? It's not a question of if he can, it's a question of he has to. His goal is to become the Ten Tails. That was the original plan he agreed to with Obito. Obito fucked over the plan by having Kakashi stab him through the heart with a Raikiri and destroy the curse mark.
You mean by
He ruined the
Kakashi beating
original
him in a
plan.
fight fair and square? Yes.
Shut your mouth. But you know what I'm talking about. Like that whole fight was orchestrated for him to destroy
Yes.
the curse mark on
Yes.
purpose to get Obito out from under his control.
You're not gonna get
That
this concession
ruined.
from me.
Okay, the point is that ruined Madara's plan. Madara needs to be in control of that.
Yes.
So your position of like, well, I have to scale to him. No, you don't. Because Madara has to get the Ten Tails. It doesn't matter if he thinks Obito is stronger or not. He's going to do everything he can, even if he's weaker, to take it from him. Because he doesn't have a choice. This is his entire life's work in front of him being ruined. He's not going to sit there and do nothing. That isn't indicative of his strength.
A better argument I feel like for this position would be that Madara feels he has to deal with Hashirama Sage Mode and Hashirama now before going after Obito, so that would imply Hashirama might be stronger or a bigger threat than Obito would present.
Um,
I'm not
not
saying I'm not
entirely.
saying it's a
Not
good argument.
entirely.
I'm saying it'd be a better one because Madara doesn't immediately go after Obito. He stays to deal with Hashirama, even though
Well,
Obito's
I,
already
I
fucking up his
guess
plan.
I guess 5 is a higher number than 0. You're correct. Yeah, that is fair. Well, I mean more specifically, not in regards to his urgency. It's just the fact that his whole plan revolves around it. The Sage Mode obviously can give you like a pretty high amp. I'm not disagreeing on it, but he's making it sound like it's like, oh, well, Hashirama Sage Power. It's like, it's you just mean Sage Mode, whatever.
All right, let us continue. Oh, hang on. There we go.
Aru implies CM2 EMS Sasuke, who's relative to BSM Naruto, still has yet to surpass Madara, who's below Hashirama by a Nine-Tails level gap. That places Hashirama firmly above the likes of BSM Naruto by at least a Nine-Tails level gap, who could at least somewhat contend with the likes of Jubito. Some people believe that this statement from Oro is in reference to Edo Madara, but I don't really think so, simply because we don't actually know that he's seen Edo Madara on the battlefield at this point. I think it makes more sense for him to be making this claim based on his findings about alive Madara, which would offer even greater stock here, since Madara is stated to be regaining his former strength upon being revived and taking Hashirama's sage mode from him, making this alive EMS Madara superior to his Edo counterpart. But that being said, what this does for
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm gonna re-listen to the 9-minute mark about Madara
on the battlefield at this point. I think it makes more sense for him to be making this claim based on his findings about alive Madara, which would offer even greater stock here, since Madara is stated to be regaining his former strength upon being revived and taking Hashirama's sage mode from him, making this alive EMS Madara superior to his Edo counterpart. But that
Okay. So at 9:26, Hashirama says that Madara, after absorbing the Sage Mode Jutsu from him, is regaining his former strength, which was when he was alive fighting Hashirama in the past. And so his conclusion is that Ito Tensei Madara is now stronger, or is Ito the alive one, or is Ito the dead one?
Edo is the one with the Rinnegan that's dead. Technically, has full Rinnegan eyes, isn't blind. The one that comes back that's blind, that has no shirt on, and is absorbing his Hashirama cells, that one's alive.
Okay.
We call them alive Madara.
Okay.
Or blind Madara.
Wait. So you're telling me that dead Madara, who was inferior to his alive version even during the Edo period, was able to fight Sage Mode Hashirama? But he's not relative though, right?
Yes. Well, to be fair, his position would just be that it's a difference between an Edo and not, because the difference between Edos for someone at Hashirama's level is pretty significant, because they do point out that it's captured almost their full strength. For Hashirama and Madara does point out that, like, the body is weaker. It's less powerful than it used to be, because the Edo Jutsu just can't capture the full extent of my total power. Because when he comes back, he literally is like, oh my gosh, I have more power. He's like, yes. He's like celebrating when he gets revived.
I'm just going to say that I feel like Hashirama can't be revived near his full strength, because Madara is not relative to him, so he has to be way weaker than near his full strength for Madara to be able to fight him. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I just find this to be strange that he's even bringing up Sasuke or Orochimaru with something that, like, he could surpass him. Also, saying Sasuke was relative to, like, BSM Biju Sage Mode Naruto. Oh, wait, Biju Sage Mode Naruto? You mean the fucking Kurama avatar? Oh yeah, I remember when he was relative to him, even at the end of the series, where the man took all of the energy from every single tailed beast and, you know, all of his Sage of Six Paths chakra, and he only managed to somehow equivocate Naruto with his strongest attack. No, he's not relative. They're just running together on the battlefield at the same time and mixing chakra into a Rasengan. If that's your argument, like, bro, Naruto has so much more chakra. Like, no, he's not even close to Naruto's level.
All right, let's continue.
Being said, what this does for Hashirama is it puts him again at least a Nine-Tails plus level gap above BSM Naruto, which is pretty crazy. That said, I think that what I've laid out makes the most sense and fits together more perfectly than any of the misconceptions we've talked about, and I feel I've explained why Hashirama is certainly not a Madara rival, nor is he verifiably below Jubito, despite both of these things being very common misconceptions in
951. Hashirama is not a Madara rival. I don't know how to tell you this as someone who has a cursory knowledge on Naruto.
It's even if you think Madara can. So I will agree that Madara has higher amps he can put on himself and has higher techniques that can absolutely smash Madara into the floor. But that's like his strongest techniques versus Madara's strongest techniques. Like if the perfect Susanoo comes out against like some of his bigger wood releases, he's got to be able to handle it. It's only when like the 1,000 hands Buddha statue comes out, he's not going to be able to handle that one. But that's like the strongest technique that he's summoning.
It is a situation where at their peaks, one is stronger than the other, but for the majority of their combat, they would be.
They're all putting like relative forces to each other. And
I know I'm being a dick about this, but fuck me, I just can't get over that fucking confidence he's got for that fucking claim.
He also says he's not a Madara rival, nor is he certifiably below Jubito.
So to be clear,
what evidence did he even present? He didn't even present any evidence because there's no examples of Hashirama fighting Jubito to make this claim. And every other Edo there got blitzed and destroyed.
Also, you can still be a rival to somebody even if they're stronger than you. I don't know how to tell you this, but you know, it's their whole relationship. I'm sorry, I just can't get over that.
What about
you know what, Magor? He was absolutely right. I have not heard these takes before on YouTube. This is all brand new stuff.
They're outlandishly crazy. Also, wait. If we're going by the position that Sasuke would eventually surpass Madara, referring to the alive Madara, which he agreed to, because he was operating the assumption that Orochimaru's assumption of the data he had on Madara from his past life would mean that Sasuke would reach his level. EMS Sasuke. Okay, he said EMS Sasuke was also comparable to fucking Naruto, right? You know what else who's comparable to Naruto? Who has the same chakra mode? Minato. You know who Minato got blitzed by? Unstable Jubito. One hit. Minato didn't even see him move. To be clear, he was not even able to perceive Jubito moving through the air as he ripped Tobirama and Hashirama in half.
I keep forgetting.
And then proceeded to blow off the top half of Hiruzen's body.
Poor Hiruzen. Man's literally just a pair of legs now.
Well, to be fair, he came back, but
let us continue.
The community. However, that does.
I was just saying that, like, technically, by that logic, you can argue that full power Minato is also relative to or below, just below Madara. So, like, I don't know. This position just gets really wonky.
I feel like his positions wouldn't be so bad if they were just worded a little better for an intent. Because all right, well, let's continue. It is still a very good video in terms of editing, for sure. It's still a good video. I'm still having fun watching it.
Just how strong is the god of Shinobi, really? Well, before we dig into that, if you're enjoying the video so far, have learned something, or just aren't a terrorist, make sure to like and subscribe. Much love and appreciation in advance for my fellow non-terrorists.
Oh no, I got cough medicine.
That was a really weird fucking segue about fucking. I mean, I guess everyone needs a hook, but not being a terrorist. Ooh, that was a
really weird. Yeah, like I thought like maybe he's referencing Naruto. No.
Because I was gonna say, because he's not talking about the or what are they called, the Akatsuki? Because the Akatsuki are terrorists.
No, he just means terrorists in general, like IRL. I'm like, what? Why would you even bring that? Why would that be relevant?
That's such a weird fucking.
So fucking weird. Stop being a wacko. Just give us your scaling.
Let us continue. Since apparently, I guess we've been labeled. Let us continue.
We're about to learn Hashirama's true scaling, child.
Let's go.
So then, if Hashirama isn't a Madara rival and isn't verifiably below Jubito, that leaves us in a weird, ambiguous space where we don't really know how strong he is, we just know how weak he's not.
That's such a stupid fucking point. What the fuck?
In a
Okay,
weird
so
and ambiguous space
that
where we
you
don't really know
just
how strong he
contradicted
is.
yourself. If
We
we
just know
know how weak someone's not, we already know a gauge of how strong they are. If I can determine that someone doesn't have a certain amount of water because the certain amount of water isn't sufficient enough, I can already guess by range they are above that set of water. That like, what do you mean?
We already know that he's according to this man, vastly stronger than Madara, and that he is comparable at bare minimum to Jubito. We already have a point of reference for how strong he is. The
According to his
only way
claims,
we
he is
don't have a point of
comparable.
reference is if this man's about to argue that Hashirama scales above like Jubito and like the Ten Tails. So let's see.
No, watch him be like, hey, he could fight Ten Tails Madara too.
how weak he's not. We do know he's at least a
Oh,
9
that would
tails
be
level gap
great.
above BSM.
Okay, hang on.
No. Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead and finish your thought. I'm gonna rewind it because I pushed forward on
No,
accident.
I just had a really funny thought. All right, you want to hear it? All right.
Go for it.
What if he argues that because Guy uses the 8 gates, and the 8 gates is consistently stated to give you enough power to surpass the Hokage, that hypothetically, Madara is or Hashirama is strong enough to fight everyone below 8 gates Guy, including 7 gates Guy.
Watch him argue that Hashirama Sage Mode isn't a part of his Hokage scaling because he's always in base while he's Hokage.
So to be clear, 7 gate Guy fights Madara with 1 Rinnegan when he has Jubito, when he's absorbed like all the tail beasts. So like he has like all the tail beasts on top of his alive base plus the Rinnegan. So just want to point that out.
All right, let us continue.
We just know how weak he's not. We do know he's at least a 9 tails level gap above BSM Naruto, but by how much? What actually is the upper limit of his power? Before we dig into this, I'll preface this by saying I intentionally delayed this video in order to run this argument past dozens of people in the community and dig through the material myself in search of a valid counter argument for it. There were none. So what I'll do here is lay out the argument, go through the popular attempted debunks I've heard, and leave the rest to you. Follow me.
Right.
Databook 4 outright calls Hashirama the strongest shinobi, with the Raws actually emphasizing that this is a fact, using kanji that describes it as so. This is important because Databook 4 covers through chapter 691, or the end of the Kaguya fight. My initial inclination for this statement was maybe this is in regards to while he was alive, but the problem is that this is a present tense statement using present tense language, and we have numerous examples to showcase that when past tense statements are made, past tense language is used, or at bare minimum, there's something on the page to indicate it, like the paneling being referenced. That's not the case here for either of those things, so it's definitely in present tense. My second inclination was that maybe it's in reference to non-Six Path characters. That also can't be true, though, since the Night Guide Databook page specifically calls Jubidara the strongest shinobi, in reference to that time, meaning that Six Path characters, even in the very same databook, are considered shinobi. Some might also say that this could just be flowery or hyperbolic, even in the...
Hold up.
Yeah,
I said cherry picking alert just went off.
yeah.
Why
You saw it too.
why did yeah, so hang on a minute. Wait, hold up. Databook 4 states he's the strongest shinobi of all time. All right, but we need to interpret this as present tense retroactively because kanji bullshit. Can't justify. And then when we look at a direct translation for Might Guy with his Night Owl, this is against Madara, who's stated to be the strongest ninja of all time for the time. I'm sorry, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. You're lying.
Even Madara's right side, the strongest ninja of all, was completely destroyed. So we have two contradictory statements here.
Oh boy. I wonder if the statement of Hashirama being the strongest would primarily apply to, like, his time and the people he'd be relative to. So, like, the highest you can argue is just that he'd be above the blind Madara. Which is still high.
Possible. He could go bar for bar and see how many statements there are of Hashirama and Madara being the strongest, and whoever has more statements wins the match.
I mean, Hashirama would win that. I'm not saying there isn't. It's just that, like, you're interpreting the context of that with the Six Paths characters, and it's like, well, this data book goes over the end of the war. It's like, But the statement of the shinobi and the ninja is kind of like, even practically, that's assuming characters that don't literally have power from God. Because like the Sage of Six Paths at this point is literally like Jesus Christ,
Because keep in
but in the
mind that
Naruto verse.
based on his position, what he's arguing, he is going to argue that Hashirama is stronger than end of series Naruto and Sasuke.
Not just, to be clear, not just Jubito, whom he directly states is stronger than him. I don't care if it's a wood clone. You're gonna argue that his base form is that strong. Well, also, like, really, if we're gonna go this route, like, can I just point out the fact that, like, alive Madara, which he doesn't believe this, but I don't care. I'd still scale Madara relative to Hashirama. Alive Madara got his arm taken off by, like, the nine-tailed beasts swinging their tails at him at one point. So, like, I don't know. Durability wise, they don't seem like that strong.
I'm going to say that, like, best case scenario for a Hashirama being way stronger than Madara would be like an 8 and Hashirama would be like a 10. Like, assuming it's a scale of 10. Like that.
And that's like if they're base to base and Hashirama goes Sage mode. To be fair.
I'm just saying that the gap is not like, because he's basically arguing Madara's like a 5 and Hashirama's like a 12. The gap is not that massive between them. Otherwise, a lot. Because again, even if he's holding back, you claim he's way stronger anyway. So, oh
It just
no.
means he's not really trying to kill him. That just means no sharp objects or anything that is a one-shot kill move, as in, like, has the properties of death. Like, Reaper Death Seal.
To be as clear as possible, I am not saying he is wrong, because in case he ends up watching this later, I don't want to like misrepresent him. I'm not saying he's wrong about claiming that not attacking with murderous intent or attacking with murderous intent is stronger than not, because it is. I'm just saying that, like, they're relative, dude. Like the gap is not.
That depends on the series. The series is define it otherwise.
But he
The point I would be making is that if you don't have a sharp object, it doesn't matter if you attack with a lot of blunt force. The splash damage radius is going to spread out the energy. It's not going to be as damaging as if you stuck all of your chakra into a sword. A little bit more effective. Kind of like that sword that he stabbed Madara from behind with. Am I right?
All right, let's continue.
The very same data book are considered shinobi. Some might also say that this could just be flowery or hyperbolic language, but since the data books are expository
Okay, well, hang on.
reference texts, with the majority of the information being factual, such as dates, ages, ninja registration numbers, jutsu names, ranks, etc., this makes any individual statement more likely to be factual than not by virtue of how these types of texts are written. Something that helps this also is that one of the rules of using hyperbole or figurative speech in expository writing is that it should be used sparingly, and when it is used, it should be obvious and not misleading. Due to the fact that, again, any given statement in the data books is more likely to be inherently factual by the text expository of text, ranks of text, reference to that time, meaning that Six Paths characters, even in the very same data book, are considered shinobi. Some might also say that this could just be flowery or hyperbolic language, but since the data books are expository reference texts with the majority, this also is that one of the rules of using hyperbole or figurative speech in expository writing is that it should be used sparingly, and when it is used, it should be obvious and not misleading.
So, regarding the be creative but constrained, I don't know what his source is for this. I'm assuming, does he have works cited?
He's just citing Wikipedia.
This Wikipedia? Okay.
Probably. I recognize the text.
Creative but
But
constrained. There's room to have a little fun in your expository writing, but it's not going to be a party on the page. Use literary devices like similes and juxtaposition sparingly, and only when they serve to make the facts clearer to your reader. So, to be as clear as possible, this is not saying that your hyperbole has to be clear. It's just saying that your hyperbole has to be illustrating a clear fact of something going on. So a good example of this would be like I'm trying to think, like he was like keeling over like he ran a marathon or something like that. even though he only ran like a block to show that a character's really out of shape would be an example. Like heavy breathing, stuff like that, with like an example of like a physical event they didn't actually do.
Or a character reaching across the table in like a classroom to grab something and then saying like they were lightning fast.
Yes. Like the actual statement is not to be taken at face value, just the implication that of the fact of what happened is to be taken at face value. Now, to be clear, I'm not going to say Hashirama being the strongest shinobi is hyperbole. It could be, not my position on that one. I'm just saying that what he said there is technically not accurate to what the scan is saying.
Due to the
Carry
fact
on.
that,
He's
again, any
basically
given
claiming that because the data books are expository reference text, with the majority of the information being factual, such as dates, ages, ninja registration numbers, just names, ranks, etc., this makes any individual statement more likely to be factual, not by virtue of how the statements are written. Something that helps is also the rules of figurative and hyperbole goes into that. So that's not actually how you do these things. I don't make a claim that an individual statement is statistically more likely to be true because it's in a data book that covers empirical information. That's not correct. Good example of this is we have codexes, for example, in Warhammer 40k that actually end up giving descriptions for like a lot of the weapons in the series. Their information on a lot of the story events, while they are statements that do talk about the general premise of the story, they don't go into any like specific details. Those aren't reliable pieces of information because they don't tell you enough about the story to make or come up with a position, especially since there is actual material such as like if you're going over the Horus Heresy, for example, you have the Horus Heresy books which go into detail on that. If I had a statement about like a bolter rifle that said it fired with this many types of ammunition, and I was like, oh, that's very specific, very reliable. I wouldn't suddenly conclude that the first 5 pages of like the codex is now like reliable because I had like 20 to 100 statements. I could have 20 to 100 statements that are reliable and like 50 that are wrong in the same codex. There's no guarantee that one being right would equivocate the validity of another.
Not to be as fair as possible, at least from my position, I do believe most of the information in data books is fine to use. There are clearly some
Well,
statements
it's
where
fine to use it. I'm saying if you have a correct statement you find, that does not guarantee the next statement is going to be good. You can't make that position.
yes.
Like you have no way of knowing until you see it. You have to judge every statement on its own merits. It being in a data book is fine because the data book's official material.
Well, hang on, Mangler. We don't believe in official here, remember? Because we don't believe
Oh
official
yeah, yeah. No,
translations.
no, 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 no. It's just like it only matters about the intent or whatever of the work. Also, he said using hyperbolic or figurative language in expository writing should be used sparingly, and what is used, it should be obvious and not misleading. That's not like entirely true. Technically speaking, writers can attempt to use hyperbole in multiple different ways, and they can also get it wrong. Like you
So,
can have bad examples of hyperbole. There isn't like a law or like a rule that prevents your book from being published if you use hyperbole incorrectly. I've
I,
seen many
I,
bad
I'm
examples of this.
as I'm being personally attacked right now by Mangler, I would like to point out that more than likely, these are not actual rules for writing. They're more like guidelines to help you write better. Because if you have like 30 fucking hyperbole statements on one page, that's gonna get boring as shit real fucking quick.
Yeah. He just says it's due to the fact that it's more likely to be true due to the text's inherent nature. No, not necessarily. And also being true and being a general statement that is likely to be true are not the same thing. There's again, this is dependent on whether the text is making a specific claim or a general claim. And most of the things in data books are general claims. Only like hyper specific parts of the descriptions are specific claims.
All right.
Also, he says there's nothing that makes this text hyperbolic.
being called the god of something while not actually even being the god of it would definitely fall under something that we would call hyperbolic. But
Yeah, I was gonna say hyperbolic, like being called the god of Shinobi when there's a literal god of like ninja and Nishu that's floating around in this, like in the same arc that you're quoting. The Sage of Six Pass floats on down from heaven to to give Naruto and Sasuke his chakra and be like, by the way, you and like Hashirama and Madara and like Sasuke are all the descendants of my sons, the originators and progenitor of chakra. It's like, okay, so yeah, no, you're literally like the god of Shinobi and like chakra. That's so yeah, like you by the context of the story, you're fucking wrong. Hashirama is being a god of Shinobi is absolutely
I'm
hyperbole.
gonna pretend I didn't see that.
I'm gonna pretend I didn't see this man that's literally levitating above the rest of us.
Nope. All right, let us continue.
In the data books is more likely to be inherently factual by the text's very nature, and there's nothing that makes this obviously hyperbolic. It's unlikely to be the case that this is hyperbole or flowery language. So what we're left with here.
Wait. Okay, hold on. There's no scenario where this wouldn't be flowery language. Because he's not an actual god. Whatever. We just went over this.
Yeah. He's not an actual god. He's literally a human that was born in the world.
If that's the case, it's my job to try and explain why this works, and I think the following argument makes most sense. Since we've established that base Hashirama is a 9 tails plus level gap above EMS Madara, we can then extrapolate from
base Hashirama is a night. Oh god.
there what it would look like if certain things fell into place for Hashirama, like they did for Madara. So Madara gets revived, gains his Hashirama cells, and gets his Rinnegan. Those same 2 Rinnegan were not enough for Pain to overcome.
I wanna hold up. I want to point out that the 9 tails level amp is not really a fair thing to say because Madara is physically stronger than the 9 tails in base. He wrapped his perfect Susanoo around it.
I guess his argument is that because Madara used the 9 tails against Hashirama, that means that Hashirama has to be stronger than both of them combined, I guess.
Sorry, I had to something, but yes, I'm fine with that, but that doesn't prove. So he's saying it like the 9 tails is multiplicatively increasing his power. Madara's already stronger than the 9 tails. This would be like saying I can punch out 1 ton's worth of force, and then I added something that was a massive amount, but is clearly weaker than me. And then being like, man, he added that amount. It's like, yeah, but it's like 1.5 now. I mean, I got stronger, but like the increase I got was less than the total amount I had before.
Yes. So it wouldn't be like again. So let's say Madara's a 1, Hashirama would be like a 1.4 or like a 1.3 in like at full power, since that's what he uses to bring him down.
And the 9 tails like a
1.1.
point. The 9 tails like a 0.2 or a 0.3 or something.
Yeah, like. And that again, it's just weird. But okay, so he's talking about Pain.
Half of the 9 tails, which is at least half as weak as the full 9 tails. So this means to me that those 2 eyes together don't necessarily make up a full 9 tails level gap, or even a half 9 tails level gap. The same is true for Wood Release. Wood Release struggled to contain even Naruto's half of Kurama, even with the chakra suppression properties offered by Wood Release. So that wouldn't necessarily make up a full 9 tails level gap either, even for Madara. And you could even say
okay, so that I got some problems with him saying the stuff about the Rinnegan. Again, the Rinnegan is a multiplicative increase. Whenever Madara got his hands on the Rinnegan, he was always stronger after the fact. And it was always a drastic difference. Like when he was blind and he couldn't do anything, he was not able to like fight the tail beasts effectively. He got his arm chopped off while he was alive. He literally lost an arm. And then Zetsu shows up with the Rinnegan, and he's like, okay, things are getting interesting now. And then he just starts beating all of them. Starts destroying them all. Also, when he added the second Rinnegan, to be clear, when he fought Sage of Six Pass Naruto and Sasuke, they beat the dog shit out of him with 1 Rinnegan. He ran away from the fight to go steal the Rinnegan from Obito so he could come back and fight them as equals.
But it's okay.
And it also
they're
in
all weaker than Hashirama, though.
they're all weaker than Hashirama. And the best part is, the man got more Limbo clones as a result of getting more Renegons. You can literally argue it made his Limbo clones stronger. Because not only made them relative to him, he got more Limbo clones from it. He only had one. After he came back with the 2 eyes, he had 4.
Never
He
forget that.
quadrupled the amount of...
Never forget that Madara got third partied, and he would have won otherwise. I don't care what anyone says. So let us continue.
Half Ninetales level gap. So for the sake of argument, let's just assume that the eyes and the Hashirama cells do close that Ninetales level gap between Madara and base Hashirama, which again is generous because we can't even verify that either of them individually close a half Ninetales level gap, okay? What this would mean though is if we accept this, revived Madara with the cells and both Rinnegan would roughly be on the same level.
Mangler, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the real pain Nagato comparable to KCM Naruto when he comes back later?
Was it who?
Wasn't Nagato comparable to KCM Naruto later on?
Yes. Yes, he literally was like... I mean, granted, he had to absorb a little bit of chakra from B first, but once he did, he got back his actual hair as an Uzumaki. And yeah, he's able to fight KCM Naruto fairly easily.
And
it's not KCM 2, but it's KCM 1.
Which would still be vastly stronger than the Naruto that fought Pain, if I'm mistaken.
Disgustingly so. He actually points out the difference between this is way higher than his Sage mode. And it's a stronger base Naruto as well, because the base Naruto that fought the Ninetales also has more control over Sage mode and is able to pull in far more Sage mode as well, because he made all of his clones have more Sage mode.
Listen, all I'm saying is that these eyes clearly have different, different power increases depending on who's using it. So maybe a fucking corpse with no life of its own, being remote controlled like a fucking drone, might not be the best point of reference. But what would I know? What would I know?
So he said revived Madara with the cells of Hashirama. So basically a live Madara that was there, but we give him all of his equipment, his weapons and everything, and then we give him both the Renegons. He's equal to no killing intent, suppressed base Hashirama.
That's what he says. Hang on, I haven't gone there yet.
That is literally what he said.
Madara then goes on to get an be on the same level of a suppressed, no killing intent base Hashirama. Madara.
Yeah, dude, like, fuck. I mean, man,
how much was Hashirama throwing that fight in the final valley? Then, man, just entertained Madara for like an entire day. Then.
So here's where I'm also gonna give like not a weird position, but just like an explanation why this doesn't really work narratively either. And I don't agree necessarily with the narrative arguments for power scaling. But if Hashirama is so much stronger than Madara, why not stop him? Why not capture him?
Why not just knock him out?
Why not just knock him out and keep him like in prison until he reforms or something? You have the power. You're allegedly fucking holding back like fucking 60% of your power, I guess.
And don't tell me we don't have that, because we literally have scenes with the Black Ops as well. That the Anbu Black Ops with sealing techniques and jutsu can also lock off Sasuke's eyes with the Rinne Sharingan after he's been like sealed. So like Sasuke at the end of the series. So it's not like once you beat someone down into the ground and put the sealing technique on them, it doesn't matter how strong they are. They're done. They're not getting their power back. There's no particular reason for him not to do this. Like just one punch, that doesn't work, increase it by double the strength. Oh, that didn't work, keep increasing it until he fucking falls. Also, this position just doesn't make sense. Sorry to interrupt you, but it doesn't make sense because the Warring States period contradicts this. These two have fought each other since they were 6 years old. Hashirama knows how strong Madara is. He knows the amount of strength it takes to knock him out. Why would he be delaying for an entire day when the guy is literally being like, I'm going to blow up the Leaf Village? Like, why wouldn't you just knock him unconscious if you could do it? what is the reason for dragging it out for an entire day?
Wait, they
It's like,
fought
well, I
for
don't want to
they
kill.
fought for a whole day.
They fought for the entire night. They
This fight went on
and that
more than fucking 10 minutes?
yes, it went on for hours.
Okay, fuck out of here. Fuck out of here.
And
Hashirama, bro, fucking Mr. Holding Back, man.
just call Madara a fraud, which to be fair, he kind of is, but not because he doesn't scale the Hashirama. Not because he
Man,
doesn't scale the Hashirama. Never.
it's okay. It's okay. You're not even on my level, but I'm gonna fight you for 8 hours straight because I can't bring you down, even when I'm holding back.
Because I don't have a technique to suppress you, even though I have the wood style, which also can like suck chakra out of people and suppress their powers. It was actually made with that intent in mind, and it could also like bind them, and I could also just beat you to death. What?
Again, this is the problem when you argue for massive power gaps among characters who don't really want to kill each other, because then it gets to a point where like, why didn't he just do this? And your entire argument just crumbles. Now,
It also doesn't work when one of the characters not only is a sensory type ninja, he's fought that character his entire life and knows exactly how strong he is. He's always been in a position when he's had more power to stop a fight, and technically his abilities and techniques are designed from a defensive position to restrain people. They're not meant to kill them. So what is his reason for dragging the fight out?
I'm very excited to hear what the counter arguments were that people just couldn't like find any issues with this.
I want to know because this he said, if you remember his choice words, this was evidence that no one had seen before. These arguments that no one has taken, a position no one has taken, to a scaling level that no one has.
I've never heard these positions before. He is absolutely right. This man is cooking.
I've seen all these scans. I've seen all these scans and all this evidence. So he's wrong on that part. I have never seen someone argue Hashirama's that fucking strong in verse though. They just argue his tier is higher, but like
to be fair, I think he said that there was some new stuff in here, and the Japanese raw being used to argue that way, I have not seen before in the video. So at least
so one cherry pick. All right, got it. Got it.
Well, let us continue.
Then goes on to get an incomplete Ten Tails amp, with this Ten Tails lacking part of Yuki and half of Kurama, which grants him 6 path level powers. So that would then give him an incomplete Ten Tails level advantage over base Hashirama. But this is where it gets interesting. Fast forward with me to the final valley, where Naruto and Sasuke are going band for band completely relative to one another, until Sasuke uses his own version of an incomplete Ten Tails, basically the same one that Madara had, to power up, beat down Naruto, and ultimately form his Indra's arrow technique. The reason I say this is like an incomplete Ten Tails level amp is because he's stated to be doing the exact opposite of what Hagoromo did, with what Hagoromo did being separating the Ten Tails chakra into 9 parts. This means that Sasuke is recombining them in the exact opposite way, which should remake the Jubi's chakra, with Sasuke also missing half of Kurama here as well as that same chunk of Yuki. It's also worth noting that Kurama does just say he's using all of their chakra for this, and while Sasuke does try to access more later on, you could just say that it recharges, but he does seem to be using at least a large chunk of what these bijou altogether would have to offer, which again leads me to believe that this is similar to Madara's baby Ten Tails amp. But then, after this, Kurama is capable of matching that amp. How, class? That's right, by gathering enough nature energy to power up Naruto to that level. So, what does this mean for Hashirama? You might see where I'm going. If you rewind with me back to the war arc when Naruto shares his chakra with the Shinobi Alliance, Hashirama states that Naruto plus half of Kurama have almost as much chakra as he does. Since Sage Mode functions by gathering nature energy to balance out and mix with your own chakra, and Hashirama has more chakra than half of Kurama, with half of Kurama being the one who gathered that nature energy, it's reasonable to assume that he'd be able to do something similar given enough time, with that something similar here being generating a 10 Tails level amp using nothing but nature energy. If Hashirama can do this, which he should be able to, and if Madara plus Hashirama cells and his Rinnegan close that 9 Tails level gap to get him to base Hashirama's level, this would mean that the God of Shinobi could then close that gap generated by Madara getting the 10 Tails and even retake the lead in the Madara versus Hashirama power-up battle that we've been referencing. Pretty insane.
Okay. All right. I got to step in because there's so much. I didn't know where to stop him because I just wanted to see how long this madness was going to continue.
So I stopped at 1625. Where did you stop?
I sucked at 1636, where he just brings up the golem, but he's not really going into depth yet.
Okay, do you want me to
So he's basically you can start, but summarize his
Give no
points, I
here's the-
guess.
So, okay, let's... Oh my god, Okay, fuck me. Where do I...
Yeah, it
Where do I even
really
fucking...
makes you wonder if you have a cursory level of Naruto knowledge, because you seem to be responding quite well to this claim.
Let me clarify what I mean by cursory. I only know War Arc post. I know next to nothing prior to the War Arc. I only know about the War Arc.
Well, that's good, because the only thing anyone cares about is the war arc.
But so okay, let's start with the position that this would make Sasuke have equivalent to six sage power. Does Sasuke get any of the Sage of Six Paths power as a result? Like of doing this?
Of no. So
See,
here's
that's
the
what I thought.
thing. They already got half of the Sage of Six Paths chakra early.
So
Both of them have it.
they would already have been amped earlier on to even fight
To a
Jubuto and
degree
Madara.
that is way beyond the chakra they're currently getting.
Oh,
Also, if you're arguing that the main thing he argues that Hashirama would be able to do something similar because Naruto absorbs Sage Mode. He has Sage Mode, ergo Hashirama can get that strong. The problem is that Sage Mode, as we've consistently shown with like other statements and other examples, with because Orochimaru also made his own version of Sage Mode called the Curse Mark, and that thing directly harnesses nature energy in an unstable form, forcing it to mesh in with someone's chakra. And as a result, it increases someone's power, at least the CM2 version increases it about 10 times. So it's a pretty massive increase. A Sage Mode one is a more natural one, but you're pulling in like pure nature energy to fuse it in with your chakra. If your chakra is increasing that much, then we would assume it's because of the nature energy, not your own chakra. Because you're not opening the gates. It's like Naruto characters have the gates inside their body that limit the flow of chakra. If they're not activating those gates, the only way they could be pulling out more chakra, if they're not just stating that they're pulling more chakra, is to mix it in with nature energy or an alternative external source.
so basically, he's arguing that, or I guess he would be arguing that Hashirama, because Kurama could do it, Hashirama would be able to amp himself with enough chakra to, I guess,
Yes,
close
but the issue to close the gap is that he's arguing that Hashirama's chakra would be doing it, not the nature energy. That Hashirama's chakra is just that high, and that it's multiplicatively increasing it. No, it's just increasing it by such a massive amount. It is a multiplicative increase compared to where you were before.
Also, is there any reason to assume that Hashirama could do what Kurama did? Because wouldn't Kurama be more in tune with chakra, being a
No,
chakra
there's
creature?
no reason to believe he could do what Kurama did, because Kurama has way more chakra at this point. To be clear, the whole statement about him saying, him bringing up the panel of Naruto having almost as much chakra as him with half the Nine Tails refutes his entire argument.
Wait,
Because
yeah, because Naruto gets the whole nine tails at that point, doesn't he? Because he gets...
no, he doesn't. But the problem is that he gets half of the Sage of Six Paths chakra.
Oh, okay,
And
so...
that's way higher than the full Nine Tails. The Sage of Six Paths, like, was at his full power, was capable of holding the 10 tails, which is still bigger than the 9 tails, the 8 tails, and all the other tails put together.
Yes, because that's what Six Paths Naruto or Madara is having the 10 tails given to him. More or
Also,
less.
saying that he didn't take a Gyuki for Madara was also wrong. Madara does actually take Gyuki. And Gyuki is shown to be relative to one half of the Nine Tails. So Yeah, even like an incomplete like ten tail, the quote unquote incomplete ten tails. It's not an incomplete ten tails. It's literally the entire ten tails. It's just missing one half of the nine tails. It has all the other tail beasts. That should be stronger than the nine tails.
By a substantial margin, since I believe the other tailed beast mentioned the 10 tails is far beyond them.
To be clear, even with only the first 7 tailed beasts, they're still stronger than one half of the nine tails. The only time the half of the nine tails that KCM Naruto has was bodying the 10 tails was just when they were summoning the individual tail beasts, and the individual tail beasts individually were fighting one half of the nine tails. When they formed together into that form, and they shot like 10 tails bombs at him, his chakra cloak came off. Naruto was literally like bleeding all over his face and lost his entire chakra cloak, protecting everybody with his energy. It blew away all of his energy reservoirs, and he had to be healed by Sakura after the fact.
I genuinely have to wonder if this individual believes that the Jubitos are that big of an amp, or if they're like just like slightly above the people they're fighting.
To be clear, that was an unstable 10 tails with only 7 of them, and it fired one tail beast bomb. And Naruto's like, yeah, I'm out of chakra. I'm out of chakra.
Sasuke, tag in! Someone help me!
So to be clear, this is a vastly stronger Naruto, and he's pulling way more nature energy from all the surrounding area from a way greater source. To be clear, there's only so much, like, you can't just pull in an infinite amount of nature energy like this guy is implying here. You can only pull in a limited amount because you have to mix it in with your chakra. If you don't control it and conserve it effectively, you will literally turn yourself into a frog. Yes. So you have to convert it and mesh it in with the total amount of chakra that you have. There is a limit to how much chakra you can pull into the Sage mode. A Ninetales would be a significantly bigger and larger being with more chakra at this point. And even if you think, well, also, Hashirama's statement literally disproves that Hashirama has substantially more chakra than the Ninetales. Because by your own logic, Hashirama says, in Edo, but in Edo regardless, Naruto has almost as much chakra as I do, and Naruto only has half the Ninetales. That means the full Ninetales would have as much chakra as Hashirama.
If not more.
So that means Jubito and all the 10 Tails Jinchurikis would have more chakra than Hashirama. That would also mean the Sage of Six Paths, who is a 10 Tails Jinchuriki, would have more chakra than Hashirama. Say it with me. They all have more chakra than Hashirama.
All right, let's see what his response is.
Golem itself just might be able to gather this energy for him, as it is a full Kurama level threat. And interestingly, we do see the Golem sitting atop the Buddha's head, forming what appears to be the same hand symbol that the Toad Sages use to gather nature energy. So I know that Hashirama obviously uses a different hand sign when he does it, but this hand sign is literally only ever used when sages are gathering nature energy, so it's probably what's happening here, and there's no reason why the Golem and Hashirama should be limited to literally one hand sign for it. Maybe that hand sign's better, I don't know, but at worst, it could at least be gathering some nature energy for him, potentially sustaining his Sage mode, if nothing else, or like offering him an additional amount of Sage mode if his Sage mode.
Has he ever had the golems give him Sage mode?
Sage mode? No. That's an entirely an asshole. He's just pulling it out of nowhere. He's never. In fact, when he uses the actual forms, he only ever uses them to control area of effect and fight like the 10 Tails to suppress it. Because he just needs something really big to control an entire area so that he can protect the Shinobi Alliance. He never is like, man, guys, I better use these 1,000 hands to absorb 1,000 times the amount of nature energy. Never.
All right, let's continue.
Naruto's clones. But what all of this together would mean, though, is that at his peak in this hypothetical state, which he 100% should be able to achieve through the mechanics of the verse with no real contradictions, Hashirama should, in fact, be the strongest shinobi through chapter 691, at least in terms of raw power output. Some people argue that this doesn't make sense because the fights we see in the series should go differently if this were true. For example, why would he have to fight Madara for an entire day to edge out a victory? Hashirama was holding back. Why would he then have to fight him again with Kurama and go band for band with him until they're both fully exhausted and have all this damage and stuff on him, while Madara seems to be in a little bit better shape than Hashirama there, despite the fact that Hashirama has a healing factor? He doesn't want to kill Madara, as he states, and as soon as he decides to, he does. It's also possible that he only attained this godly level of Sage Mode later on in life, post-Final Valley, so those are two perfectly reasonable explanations for how those fights.
Okay, so
you don't have the evidence for when he got the Sage Mode, so you're just assuming when that would be applicable, and yeah, that's just an assumption with no evidence. What were we gonna say?
The other issue is, again, the holding back part of the argument before they're like officially friends and in the warring period doesn't really make sense because Hashirama doesn't want people to die. So if he's vastly stronger than Madara, why doesn't he just beat Madara really quickly and then help out his clan?
To be clear, there was no like before holding back, before they were friends. They were friends when they were 6 years old. There was never a time at their point they weren't friends.
No, I understand that. I should have phrased it better. I meant when they could like officially just be friends and hang out together. Like during the warring periods.
That was only when they were children.
Yes, but
they're fighting each other for like 90% of their lifetime.
They didn't want people to die for the most part. They both kind of agreed.
Yeah, they disagreed with it, but that's more in regards to general policy up until the point that they're both protecting their family members. At the end of the Warring States period, you can't really make that argument anymore because Madara loses Izuna. That's the reason he gets the perfect Susanoo. Izuna gets killed by Tobirama, or at least Tobirama lands the finishing blow with the Thunder Flying Raijin. He leaves the battlefield with Izuna, and then Izuna succumbs to his wounds and dies. And then he takes his eyes, comes back with the perfect Susanoo, is like, no, we're finishing this. And then after the fight, when he ends up on his back, he's like, listen, if you want this to end, you need to kill me. Because my brother's dead. And if that's not good enough for you, you need to kill your own brother. Like, Madara was not comfortable with that whole, like, arrangement. So the Madara, like, you're seeing this fighting, like, Hashirama is very bloodlusted. There is no reason for Hashirama to hold back.
The other thing, too, is that, again, two things here. If Hashirama is so much stronger than Madara at all these points, then he can just, again, like we mentioned earlier, take him out even if he's holding back. Because Madara's not made of paper. Like, he survived the fucking Golem strike that Hashirama threw to take out the Ninetales and shit. It's not like Madara is so weak that he can't withstand some of fucking Hashirama's full power.
And to be clear, if you're going to argue like the Susanoo or the Ninetales is in play, keep in mind, Hashirama disables that at the beginning of the fight. So for most of the fight, they're in base, throwing shit at each other as they're destroying the final valley. So he would just be using normal techniques. He could just throw out some more wood clone jutsu to just keep battering and bashing him until he breaks down his endurance. Again, he knows Madara is durable. He could just keep throwing wood clones at him and just keep summoning wood dragons. What's Madara gonna do? Yeah, I'll summon the perfect Susanoo. Buddha statue. Buddha statue. What are you gonna do?
You've never played Ultimate Ninja Storm.
No, yeah, like, bro, if he at least, I would at least respect the position if he came to the conclusion that Madara was like so insanely skilled it didn't make a difference, and then like Madara was like getting amped or something during the final fight or something, even though there wasn't any evidence of that. I could respect that position. He's arguing like, no, Madara's not even near his level. The only reason why Hashirama didn't kill him at all is just because he didn't want to kill him. It's like, then wouldn't he have let him live?
Also, if he's vastly stronger, then why is he getting injured so much? If he's so far superior, shouldn't he be able to like treat Madara like a child? Because that's basically what you're implying is that Madara is so far inferior.
Keep in mind, so unless you can prove he's vastly physically weaker than Hashirama, he shouldn't be able to damage him at all. That should be possible. Hashirama's damaged, so your position is contradicted. So from that point, you have to prove he has drastically more chakra control, which he does seem to have some more chakra, but we can't really determine to what amount. Again, if he were to take him out and restrain him, he wouldn't have to kill him. Thus, he would accomplish the goal that you claim he has, and he would also prove he's superior to Madara. It would kill two birds with one stone. Again, if Hashirama took him prisoner, that would prove your position was more valid. Wouldn't prove it completely, but it would add some credence to the arguments.
All right, let us continue.
Went. It's also worth noting that, as TG has pointed out before, it's very likely that Hashirama had to fight Kurama more than once during the Valley of the End fight, with Hashirama also not wanting to kill Kurama, but rather subdue him. We know that he wants to subdue him and capture him because he literally did that with all of the tailed beasts. So, to put this in perspective, a holding back Hashirama had to fight Madara plus a creature likened to a natural disaster capable of taking on 6 Bijou at once while at half power, also stated to be able to turn the planet to ash over and over again like a boss fight round where the boss has multiple lives. And again, despite holding back...
there's context for that databook statement. That would be referring to the surface area of the planet and him throwing Bijou bombs at it. Because the strongest destructive capacity feat that it has is it shooting Bijou bombs.
Also,
that's not like the casual nine-tail strikes. That's its strongest techniques.
Also, can I just say that the way he keeps talking about this, he implies that the Ninetales is stronger than Madara, but that's not true. That's not how that works.
No, he keeps making it sound it's like, oh, look at what he needs to do to beat the Ninetales multiple times. Also, he put the Ninetales to sleep. What's your evidence that Madara is able to wake it up?
All right, let us continue.
And Kurama repeated.
Hang on, because
Hashirama still stood victorious, and this is incredibly impressive because he didn't tap into that form. Why? Because he didn't have to. But what about his fights in the war? Why doesn't he do it then? Well, he's nerfed. Yes, the Edos are stated to have been brought back near their previous power, but how...
Okay, we're going with the raw Japanese again. We revived that close to our original power. This time, the increased precision of the impure world resurrection technique has backfired on you. We were reborn to this world with power closer to our true potential.
How near are we talking? And B, what exactly does this mean? Does this mean near to their previous physical stats, jutsu potency, something else? I mean, Hashirama is just able to fight Kurama with Madara's Susanoo.
Okay, I'm just going to be honest here. Again, you would just go with the official translation of them being close to their original power, them being closer to their original.
Cherry picking a single letter in the word to argue a completely different translation.
It's also
articulative of meaning. That's wild. Like not even a different adjective. It's the same word. It just has R at the end of it.
Also, them being closer wouldn't mean they're not close. This is just in reference to the fact that the first time they were summoned vastly nerfed, which was back in, like, I think the first arc of Naruto, technically.
Yes, because they have their memories from the first time they were resurrected, and they were significantly weaker back then. Hiruzen was able to fight them with, like, no effort at all, and Hiruzen's not on Hashirama's level.
What do you mean? Wasn't Hiruzen considered the god of shinobi as well?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. He's also considered the god of shinobi. He was actually the original god of shinobi because he was also stated in part 1 to be stronger than all of the other Kage of the 5 great nations. Much like someone else.
Crazy.
You know, Minato was also considered a prodigy. Fucking, what was it? The hero of the 3rd great ninja war? The Yellow Flash?
Nope.
I'm pretty sure Toby Rama also has statements for being the god of shinobi, and he's also stated to be the fastest shinobi that ever lived. Which is also not true later, because he admits that Minato is the fastest one, but that statement can be true, context-wise.
Nope. Let's just continue.
Golem in base while alive, but has to fight the perfect Susanoo and no Kurama with the same wood golem in Sage mode during the war. Fishy.
I got an ad, hang on. Okay.
Also recognized that Hashirama and Tobirama couldn't reach their full power, meaning that this difference in their power from the Edo nerf wasn't negligible to the point of being unrecognizable or insignificant. It's both noticeable and significant based on Madara's statement I just mentioned, as well as the discrepancy in how Hashirama has to fight Madara, and how their fights go. Also, why doesn't
how Madara specifically says there is just that he has the edge because they weren't restored to their full power. He doesn't talk about how far away they are. Them not being... them just not being at full power gives him the edge. They could be at 95% and he would still have the edge because of that 5% difference. But let's continue.
Hashirama ever used a Buddha statue in his fight against Madara or the Ten Tails as an Edo. Pretty weird as well, right? I mean, we know that Tobirama and Minato can just move all of the shinobi away from the battlefield, so it's not like he'd have to worry about collateral damage. I think all of this points to the idea that when they're brought back near their former strength physically, and they have access to probably the primary jutsu and stuff like that, but not necessarily brought back fully in terms of their higher-end arsenals. And this nerf could also be more significant for stronger characters like Hashirama, as the strength of the
That's an assumption. That's an assumption. That's never stated. To be clear, every single Edo that is brought back demonstrates the full capabilities of their jutsu arsenal, including Madara. When Madara came back with an Edo, he literally, the first thing he did was summon the creation of all things and jump a giant-ass meteor onto the battlefield. It was the largest jutsu that's ever been seen. And even Pain didn't do that with the Rinnegan.
Madara
to be clear.
also directly states that this is not power of his creation, implying that that was what he could do when he was alive. So, and I don't think anyone knew that technique existed.
We didn't. The people who knew about the Rinnegan and the viewers who had studied those chapters, gone through all the data books, had seen all that. When we saw that, we were like, "What the fuck is that? Is that a planetary devastation? No, wait, that's not right. That's not right. He didn't make a gravity core. He summoned that from outside the planet and threw it at the planet." And then, well, hold up. Then he uses the perfect Susanoo, which is his strongest technique. So, what's the argument that Hashirama wouldn't be capable of also using the Buddha statue? To be clear, Kabuto and Orochimaru are using the same version of the reanimation technique. It's the same exact version. It's no different. And Orochimaru is the original one who developed it. Kabuto was also using it and using the jutsu using Orochimaru's chakra.
No.
So, if anything, Hashirama should be closer to his full power than Madara, if we really want to get there. But yeah, let's just assume that they can't use their full abilities, even though that's absolutely contradicted. And also, all the other shinobi in the world can. I mean, do they ever directly state that they can't use their abilities? Oh, wait, no.
So let me get this straight.
So,
he can use Sage Mode, but he can't use his fucking Golem. But he has access
no,
to
he
Sage
uses.
Mode.
He uses. To be clear, he uses the 10 gates. He uses huge giant forest emergence things, and he uses other giant-sized fucking golem dragons. He just doesn't use the giant Buddha statue, and so he argues well, therefore he can't. And it's no. Hashirama has infinite chakra. That's what an Edo gives you. It gives you infinite chakra. You literally never run out of chakra.
Man.
And Hashirama already has practically infinite chakra because he can fight you all day long. So, why wouldn't he use the Buddha statue? Or why wouldn't he be capable of using it?
Man, I gotta be honest. That is some massive luck Madara has that Hashirama didn't.
Just summon nonsensical giant fucking Buddha statues over and over again.
Good for Madara. All right,
Yeah.
let us continue. We're almost there.
Something else that my boy Virtue actually pointed out to me is that it's reasonable to assume Hashirama could be suffering from a greater nerf than the other Hokage due to the fact that the Zetsu bodies, which are used to bring back the Hokage, are stated to be genetic clones of Hashirama. So you could argue that the other Hokage were revived while receiving an additional advantage due to this, while Hashirama is just being revived in a body made of his own cells, which obviously wouldn't make him any stronger than he otherwise should be with his own physiology, whereas the same thing wouldn't be said for the other Hokage. We know that Hashirama's mutant cells and...
Okay, so... I'm just going to pause right there on the Zetsu bodies. They wouldn't be made stronger because Hashirama's DNA is just mostly just Senju DNA in a very specific way. Again, Hashirama is the last of the Senju that survived. Well, okay. Aside from, obviously, Tobirama. He's like the last of their major tribe. I mean, yeah, there are some descendants, but like the problem is that bloodlines, they spread out more, get like change and they change because, genetics obviously change with exposure to environment and whatnot. Especially when the people who were developing these bloodlines were in the middle of a warring states period where they are actively fighting all the time. Their descendants were going to be stronger and have more potent chakra. That's the reason why the Senju had extremely powerful bloodlines.
Also,
So
if that's not stated, I don't think you would assume that
it's
because
never stated that Hashirama's chakra or that the Zetsu body made the Edo Tenseis stronger. That's never stated. Ever.
like I understand he's trying to extrapolate positions based on evidence, and that's fine if you want to do that, but that shouldn't matter at all because Hashirama should still be way stronger in all of them. Also, no.
Also, why would that affect Tobirama? Tobirama is his genetic brother and comes from the same parent.
Nope. I guess Tobirama just got really bad genes. His mom cheated on his dad or something. Let us continue.
Contact with, so long as their bodies can handle it, with the power from these cells being so strong that it literally overrides the DNA of people who can't handle them, with the only other example of something like that being the Otsutsuki, so wild. But even Orochimaru receives a jutsu potency amp via possessing a Zetsu.
Well, it's an honor to be praised so by a god of shinobi.
Oh, that's crazy. It's another one of those statements. It's almost like that's always what they call him.
He's acquired my cells and enhanced his power to bind us.
So this should actually make a ton of sense, as the vessels for the Edos themselves could affect the strength of said Edos, with Hashirama not receiving anything additional from.
Most of his body is composed of my brother's cells. I mean, that's actually a good feat for like cellular fucking.
While the other
a lot of Hashirama cells are really silly. You'd be surprised how many antagonists in Naruto just have Hashirama's DNA.
He and Tobirama actually might have received slightly defective Zetsu bodies, more so than Minato and Hiruzen did, as their Zetsu bodies literally are missing parts of their limbs. So do what you want with that, but I thought that was interesting. People might also ask how this could possibly be the case if Hiruzen was stronger than Hashirama. Well, he wasn't. The scan that's been floating around for years calling him the strongest Hokage is a mistranslation. It actually says he's revered as the strongest Hokage. It's a reputation statement perpetrated by those who don't know how strong Hashirama was. We know this.
Isn't that convenient how that translation is also a mistranslation? The one piece of evidence that also contradicts his evidence.
Would it not matter regardless? Because weren't there people alive who knew Hashirama?
Yes, there were people alive in his time that would have known Hashirama, because Tobirama, to be fair, was still, I think he was still in like his 50s or 60s. He was still alive, like he still had like decades ago, especially as like a Senju, when Hiruzen was to be fair, this is when Hiruzen is like older. But the point is that Hiruzen was still revered as like the strongest of his time. When he got into office at some point, sometime through his like 30s or 40s, he's 70 by the time he dies. So maybe it would have been a little bit longer. But the point is that they still revere him as the strongest. So why would that statement be different? Is it because like we're assuming that the revering part means that it's tied to people's credibility? What do you think the god of all shinobi and ninja is? Why wouldn't we also tie that to is your position that that's a statement from the omniscient narrator? Because I would treat those the exact same way. No one alive or dead knows Hashirama's power except for Hashirama, Tobirama, and Madara. And they're not the ones narrating those statements. So what's the difference between this statement of Hiruzen and all the God of Shinobi statements for Hashirama? There shouldn't be any difference.
All right, let us continue.
Kabuto tells us directly that everyone who heard of the first Hokage's power considered it to be fairy tale, alongside the Sage of Six Paths, a dude people weren't even convinced existed. So basically, these people making the claim in Konoha or wherever, including Iruka, that Hiruzen was stronger than Hashirama, don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So at the end of the day, the statement is the statement, and I think I've done a good job of backing it up. And
I could say a lot of these scans also don't know what the fuck they're talking about because they're weighted under the assumption that the god of shinobi fighting his rival for his entire life just decided not to kill him for 99.9% of the fight. when he was actively threatening his village, or to walk him out, knock him out, despite being drastically stronger than him and having techniques specifically designed to suppress and subdue people.
Nope.
Why we never saw this hypothetical ultimate form, well, we did, we saw it with Naruto, but with Hashirama, we never had to see it when he likely had access to it, since it wasn't required against anyone he fought, and when it would have been useful, like in the war, he likely couldn't pull it off due to being nerfed. So the idea that I have from this statement, and what I think makes the most sense, is if you take a hypothetical peak power Hashirama, maximum Buddha statue, full nature absorbed like what Kurama did, he could just stand at the peak of the shinobi world in terms of overall output. And with him accessing Sage Mode, he is able to fight Ten Tails level characters, as they're not invulnerable to it like they are to ninjutsu. Now, that doesn't mean that he beats everybody, but he should be able to at least contend with people on this tier outside of just getting blitzed or, being overwhelmed by hacks. But this video was brought up and written because of that.
Getting blitzed or overwhelmed like hacks, kind of like when his clone got turned into fodder by unstable Jubito. Kind of like when Tobirama, the guy that was revived near his full power. Again, you make the actual position that the Zetsu clones would have enhanced them. So by that logic, and by the Madara statement that you referred to, when Madara basically pinned Tobirama to the ground and mentioned that they almost got their full power back, that still means that you're conceding that Tobirama not only has an immortal body with infinite chakra, but still is very close to his full strength, and he got blitzed. Like, how much of a difference between Tobirama and the rest of them do you think there is? Also, Minato got blitzed as well.
Well, about 10 more seconds. Let's see if there's anything
Interesting,
else.
and I wanted to give you my best guess as to what it could mean. But in closing, I think that we can all recognize, despite being the strongest, we sadly never got to see Hashirama at his strongest. Mostly because he never had to be. I guess that's fitting for a man who stood head and shoulders above the ninja world. One who deservingly bears the title, God of Shinobi.
All right. Well, any other thoughts or conclusions you want to give for this video, or do you think we're good on that one? The video overall editing was very well done. It was very well made video.
Editing's fine. There's a lot of assumptions again.
Well, yeah, the entire video was massive assumptions across the board, with some evidence here and there.
Massive assumptions with just flat out incorrect claims at times that are contradicted directly, and very big misunderstanding of basic literacy terms like hyperbole. A lot of fallacies regarding statistics, false equivalencies, basically arguing that because data books have factual information, or they're expected or implied to have factual information, we should therefore not take every statement on a case-by-case basis and should just assume everything in there is valid because it's in a data book. It's man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to say. We kind of tore into it as the video went on. This recording is currently saying at 1 hour and 42 minutes, so actually, pretty good time for us.
Yep, pretty good.
All
To be
right.
fair, we had to stop it a lot, but he also had a lot of scans, so that did make the job easier.
Yes, again, very well edited video. Definitely one of the better videos we've reacted to. I'm not going to say I agree with his positions per se, but the way he presented it was definitely among the higher tier
I
of
do
editing.
think presentation was much better. Argumentation he could work on. Certain sources would be better, but the editing was fine. He definitely nailed some aspects of the video, like 10 out of 10. I don't think I'd be able to find better ones, at least not for Naruto.
Yep. So,
A good video.
yeah, if you have nothing else, with that said, thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys on the next streamer video. Take care, everybody. Have yourselves a nice day or night.